Yes, people, welcome back to the Daily Football Report. Of course, it's another day where we bring you football news. And on today's report, we're talking about United's record sales. Not only that, we have some news about Marcus Rashford, Scott McTominay, Alejandro Garnacho. And also, we have some news about Jeremy Doku to the other side of Manchester. So stay around, jump into it with me right away. So Manchester United had record revenue of £665 million. Now, first of all, United fans, don't get too happy. Let's really look at this situation. Over the last 6 years, United has actually recorded losses, raising hundreds of millions of pounds. So on that side of it, maybe the fact it's only 33 million, we can be okay, but it was actually a jump of 83 or 85 million from what it actually was. So not bad in terms of cutting losses, but the club's still operating at a 33 million pound loss. Now, is that you can look at it at both sides, a positive side or a negative side, in terms of, yes, the loss, the amount that it was, has dropped tremendously, which means the trajectory is upward. But then, along as that, on the pitch, we're not seeing that, yes, we are losing money off the pitch, but we're also losing money on the pitch. Now, as much as this club can generate so much money with being such a shit club at this moment, it just shows how massively powerful the commercial weight United carries, not only in world football, but just as a sporting brand. And the more and more United grows, is the more and more United will become a lot more successful on the field as well, I reckon. Because this is not owners that... See a lot of United fans talking about these owners. Like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They are awful. They have no idea. Look at what they did to Nice. They're going to do the same thing to Manchester United. And I do see why people say that, because I too have my sort of, reservations towards Ineos in terms of how they've gone about certain things. Now, not the cost cutting, because sometimes as a businessman, CEO myself, like, you have to cut costs. Sometimes you have to be rigid with the people that you work with. Sometimes you have to really speak your mind. Sometimes you have to be a dickhead in order to get certain things done. And it might be sad, but sometimes it's just human nature. Not everyone's motivation is the same, especially when it's yours. So when you own something, when you really think that this is mine and no one else should get it, and you think that you deserve to make something great, then you can't afford to just allow it to be withered away by people that don't want to work as hard as you to keep it. So United is in a really good place in terms of how Ineos decided in going about cutting costs. Now, people also will say, oh, but those firing all these people can't cut so much loss. Well, I always learned from my mother, right? Little full basket in me. She always say that. She say, yeah, son, little full basket. So what that means is, every day you go and pick one apple off the tree and put it in your basket, yeah? It's one apple. But if you never go pick the apples and put one in your basket, how you gonna ever have a bunch of apples? You can't have a bunch without picking up a few. So without you going and do that every day to make sure you have one, add into that one, eventually get to 6, eventually get to a dozen, eventually get to 2, 3, 4, 5 dozens. Then you have a full basket, right? Little full basket. It's the same thing right here. Cutting little costs here and there adds up. If I cut a 800,000 here, a 200,000 here, that's $1 million, right? If I cut 500,000 here, 500,000 there, that's $1 million, right? If I cut 250,000 here, I cut 150,000 here, I cut 100,000 here. How much is that? That is 500,000. And then you do another 500,000 on the other end. That's another $1 million. So how much has we cost now? We have just cut at least 3 to 4 million. So that's sometimes how it works. Little full basket. So don't get caught up with some of these United fans talking about, oh yeah, you're celebrating this loss. Or, yes, because for years, 6 years, the club has been in a deficit. 6 years the club has been recording losses upon losses upon losses. Anyone who owns their own business, you would think, damn, this is how the club's been operating. Well, let's celebrate this at least. At least we're not good on the pitch, but we can celebrate us becoming better commercially, dropping our losses, cutting our losses by 80 million in less than a year. Come on, man. You got to respect that, and you got to respect the owners. But you're not supposed to not criticize them. Like, they're not shielded from criticism. They have done things I think could have done better. Like, in terms of they could have gone about the transfer window a bit better in terms of who they targeted. I think there were a lot other players within the window we could have targeted, but maybe that's not what the manager wanted. And who am I to tell the manager who to get when I am sitting down behind a camera and he has a UEFA Pro A license probably? You know what I mean? But then, not saying I don't understand football, and I could probably talk to Amarin about football all day, and we could break down tactics and show each other things, because I don't believe I'm that delusional to not be able to talk to a manager of that ilk. You know, a lot of these guys, content creators, get around these players, and you hear the questions they ask them. Like, who the fuck cares about their simple life, and who cares about these things? You know, if I was to get an opportunity to talk to any football at that level, right? Go to one of those press conferences, bro, the questions, the ilk in which I would be asking, the level, they would be like, nah, this guy level of football intellect is beyond it. Because first of all, I'm not going into the interview asking them no basic question for no headline. I'm asking them, and that is what most media platforms want you to do, is to go get that next headline. But they would have to hate me, because this is why I created the Oniyaya. Because I want to be able to go ask questions like, so Maresca, when you took over the team from Pochettino, right? Just saying, this is one of the questions I would ask, say, a Maresca. Yeah? So Maresca, so you took over the team from Pochettino. What was one of the first things you identified within the team you needed to change that allowed you to then go on a run after the first 10 games? Listen to the quality of that question. You're not hearing those things in interviews. So the managers are coming to the interviews already knowing, oh, they're going to ask me about Garnacho. Or they're going to ask me about Enzo Fernandez. Or they're going to ask, you know, he already knows what they're going to ask him about. They're going to ask him about Sterling. They're going to ask him about Disasi. You already know these guys aren't playing. You know, understand? So it's just those small things that, for me, I'm just saying, like, if I want to get it, I would be asking questions that these guys will realize, yeah, he's trying to actually get the world to understand football and not just get a talking point. Because that, I thought that was the point of journalism, especially sports journalism, is to actually get the best answer from the professionals so we can learn the sport a bit more. Like, if they went into the interviews with that sort of aim or goal, or trying to function in that way, I'm telling y'all, fans won't be this delusional in the way they are. Managers wouldn't have lost their jobs as many as they could, because they would actually get a chance to just explain the situation right there and then, instead of asking them all the time to build up headlines to see which reporter can get the first manager fired. Because that's what they do. I'm telling you, I can see it just based on the questions they ask. But anyway, talking about reporters were talking to Marcus Rashford and Scott McTominay, two players that left Manchester United. And, well, they were speaking to Conte about McTominay, and they had an interview with Rashford. Now, with McTominay, Conte just had great things to say. He said, basically, just paraphrasing what he said, he just had to say that Scott, ever since coming to Napoli, is awesome. He's always wanted Scott McTominay at Napoli, in terms of always wanted to coach Scott McTominay. His adaptability, his work ethic, and he was well aware of his talent before when he was at Manchester United. Now, this is key, because also Ten Hag deserves a tap on the back for playing Scott McTominay in a position that now has elevated his game to allow him to be noticed by top managers around the world. And people won't give Ten Hag his praise for this. But we also need to look at Ten Hag's recruitment is playing up top now for the Italian champions. So let us really think about that. Ten Hag played Scott McTominay as a 10-9. Højlund recruitment, even if he didn't want Højlund, let's be honest. But either way, both players now, from the way Ten Hag had them playing for 4 to 5 games, have allowed both of them to actually create this bond in which now a top manager wanted that in his team. So we have to really think about that for a second when we talk about certain managers, and we also have to look at these small details to understand how football works too. Because football is as big as it is, the minute things matter as well. The small things within life, within this sport matters. And it's the finer details that make the big picture. The fine details, the focus, the scanning. You know how many people take scanning for a joke? But the more you scan, is the easier the game is the more you're aware. Is you look like Pirlo every time you play. But if you don't, you look like Chris Smalling. Look at the mass difference. And that is a fact. And any coach will tell you that. And those are the small details. You know, passing the ball to the player's left foot when the player's on his right side. Or passing the ball to the player's right foot when the player's on his left side. Or if you see a player run, a defender coming into your forward's back, you see him close to the edge of the box, you want to win a foul, you drive the ball into his feet, he gets the contact, you get a penalty. Edge of the box, you might get a penalty. Or you might get a free kick. So there's just these small things in the game that we can also, if we just learn them, and I don't think everyone understands the game in that way, only if you play the game or you really love the game at that high level, because there are players that play at that high level and don't even pass, they will just pass the ball to you. Now sometimes a player wants to want to, he plays the ball to your right foot but expects you to give it back to him on your left side. It's fucking impossible. You either have to play it straight to me to get it back to that side, or you play it on my left side so I can play it to you on that side. But they're just these small things in the game and these small details that help us build. Now, Garnacho is probably going to make his return to Manchester United. I don't know if he's going to start, but he's definitely going to be around the team. Now, I just hope United fans don't boo this kid, because this kid does not deserve the boo. This kid deserves just a little bit of respect. Now, yes, you can say the Aston Villa shit. You can talk about so many things, leaks, and he's a kid though. First of all, he shouldn't have had so much power. He shouldn't have been playing so much. So before we want to attack the kid, we supposed to, because he's just doing what kids do. Kids do kids things. Don't expect a kid Garnacho, because he has 200 plus games in the Premier League, to change him being a kid. You know, Mason Greenwood made a kid decision. You know, a lot of big men do that, of course. There's domestic violence everywhere, whatever. He is still not guilty. But at the end of the day, the decisions that he made based on what we heard, yeah, it was a childish way of going about something. And sometimes when these young men make mistakes, we shouldn't punish them in terms of show hate towards them. What we should do is show love. What we should do is try to understand why they act the way they do. What we should do is try to mold them attitude, mold their shape, mold them into better people, better young men. And if we do that, then we'll have so many better guys out there trying to actually pursue other things in life. It's not hard once we encourage them in the right way. Now, Jim Ratcliffe came down to Carrington to give words of encouragement to Amorim, and apparently he wanted to offer him a new contract. Just kidding. Don't go crazy, people. So Amorim and Ratcliffe and all the other board staff just had a meeting, a regular catch-up, as we know, because that's what the heads of teams do. Every couple months, you have to have a catch-up. Also, within the Premier League, yeah, sometimes within associations, they force you to have a general meeting and you have to get the minutes of those meetings at least once or twice throughout the season. One just before the season begins, one during the season, and then one after the season. So sometimes that could also be the reason why they're meeting. They just meeting obligations that the league asks them to bring. Now, I haven't really done much research on that per se, but I know in other leagues that's how it works. In the English Premier League, it's probably once or twice, but I know for sure a lot of associations, you have to have meetings between every one of staff. Sometimes you have to have first a meeting of just the board members and staff. So that's the technical director, the general secretary, the coach, the head coach, the president, these people. Then you have another meeting with the team, with the management, with the staff. Then you have to have another, and all these minutes need to be taken and then given to the association or the FA or whoever. So there's a lot of things that happen that people just don't know about. Reporters also don't know about, because a lot of them have never worked in that department in a football team. So for a lot of y'all that's wondering, there can be so many things happening. But yes, Ratcliffe was about Carrington talking to Amorim. I do think Amorim have time. I do think Amorim have a lot more time than people think. I don't think that Amorim is just going to be fired. Ineos is going to see this out at least for the year, and United fans just have to deal with it. I honestly don't think United is going to kickstart anything crazy at the moment, but there is a chance that they will. You just have to see what happens after 10, 12 games, then you can make a massive judgment. But yes, people, it's been your boy Yaya. Don't want to go too much into it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page. Keep hitting the bell for notifications, of course, so I can continuously keep bringing you great content going forward. Have a good time. Take care. Stay sexy. And you know what? Turn around my hat. Ciao, my people.